Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
It's the Biden administration's latest effort to offer relief in college tuition loan debt, and it involves a now defunct online for-profit school that was based here in San Diego. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. The former Ashford University was sued by the California Department of Justice and the U.S. Department of Education. KPBS education reporter MG Perez has more on how students who were cheated and deceived will now get some financial relief.
The case against the former Ashford University involves more than 2,300 students who asked for loan debt relief after they say they were misled by the online school and left with thousands of dollars in government loans and worthless degrees. The California Department of Justice teamed up with the U.S. Department of Education to investigate and then sue on behalf of those students. This is the building off the 163 that used to house Ashford University headquarters. Now it's home to a venture capital company. But from March 2009 to April 2020, investigators say Ashford engaged in deceptive recruiting practices.
At Ashford University, we try to make the admission process as painless as possible.
Students don't have to worry about a big pile of paperwork.
California Attorney General Rob Bonta said today,
what Ashford University did with students was unconscionable and illegal. Ashford misled and deceived people trying to better their circumstance.
He joined the U.S. Department of Education in announcing the government will forgive $72 million in outstanding loans for the 2,300 students affected. According to the California Department of Justice, some of the major misrepresentations made by Ashford University included recruiters who promised students they would be able to work as teachers, social workers, nurses, or drug and alcohol counselors, when in fact Ashford had no state approval or accreditation for those career degrees. Recruiters also promised students accelerated degree programs, less than the traditional four-year schools. That was not true. The Justice Department determined Ashford programs often took more than 5 academic years to complete, and recruiters guaranteed all Ashford credits would transfer to other universities. In many cases, credits did not transfer.
We are proud to be UAGC.
Just 2 months ago, the University of Arizona Global Campus acquired direct ownership of what's left of Ashford University. That includes its debt. We reached out for comment to the Global Campus, which is affiliated with the University of Arizona. A spokesperson told us they are looking into the matter and had nothing else to say. If you attended Ashford University between 2009 and 2020 and feel you were harmed, you can go online to studentaid.gov/borrower defense to submit a claim. MG Perez, KPBS News.
Recently, over some of the interior valleys, we have been experiencing the heat, and that continues through this evening, but there are some changes coming up with regards to temperatures. Also with regards to the potential of some precipitation coming back into the mountainous terrain as well as the deserts. Much more with details as we work our way throughout the remainder of the week and head our way into the upcoming weekend. That forecast is coming up.
The University of San Diego's football team is under investigation for an alleged hazing incident. A USD spokesperson told our media partner KGTV that about half of the football team is facing varying degrees of disciplinary action. Some have received indefinite game suspensions. The football coaching staff found out about the incident back on August 18th, and university officials did not release details but said they do not believe anyone was physically harmed. USD took the preliminary results of their investigation to the San Diego Police Department. They've also contacted an outside firm to start an independent review. The first meeting of San Diego's long-awaited Police Oversight Commission is in the books. KPBS reporter Scott Rudd has more on what the commission will be tasked with doing and why they're already playing catch-up.
The new Commission on Police Practices is the result of Measure B, an initiative overwhelmingly approved by voters in 2020, which called for increased oversight of the San Diego Police Department. The City Council took nearly 3 years to set it up, but the new commissioners have now officially been sworn in.
I have black children, black grandchildren, mixed grandchildren, and a host of family, friends, and loved ones who I want to make sure are protected by the police department and served well by the police department.
The commission will review police misconduct, officer-involved shootings, and in-custody deaths. It will also have the power to launch independent investigations, but it'll take months to develop a process for how that happens. While the commission cannot punish officers directly, it can make recommendations on disciplining officers to the San Diego Police Department. Commissioners will also be playing catch-up. For years, an interim commission struggled to keep up with reviewing complaints against officers. There's now a backlog of more than 100 unreviewed cases. Scott Rudd, KPBS News.
There's an effort in the state legislature to bring a $25 per hour minimum wage for healthcare workers. And as KPBS health reporter Matt Hoffman explains, there's also a push to enact it in 3 San Diego County cities.
Go to a grocery store or shopping center in San Diego, La Mesa, or Chula Vista, and you might see people collecting signatures for a couple ballot initiatives. One seeks to limit healthcare executive compensation, and the other would implement a $25 per hour minimum pay.
That is the baseline to be able to make it in California.
Renee Saldana is a spokesperson for the union behind the ballot initiatives. She says the pandemic made staffing shortages worse, and some are leaving for higher paying jobs in retail or food service.
So we were hearing that many healthcare workers just can't afford to live where they work in San Diego. They are working 2 or 3 jobs, just really struggling to make ends meet.
This would impact positions including receptionists, cleaning staff, maintenance workers, and security guards, not nurses or doctors. But Saldana says it would also boost pay for some who provide direct care.
Certified nursing assistants, patient care technicians, dialysis technicians. These are many of the folks who are at the lower end of the wage scale in healthcare. And these are also folks who have some of the most contact with patients.
SEIU UHW is behind a similar legislative push. They're supporting a Senate bill that would also boost healthcare jobs to $25 an hour. Most hospitals we reached out to referred us to the Hospital Association of San Diego and Imperial counties. They're opposed to both initiatives. CEO Dimitrios Alexio says health providers support fair and living wages, but
passing measures city by city, including some workers while excluding others, just simply isn't good policy. It's something that we definitely support our healthcare workers, but from a financial perspective, you're talking about increased expenses and costs to the bottom line without additional revenue, which, puts hospitals and other providers in a tough position.
Alexio referred to them as operational handcuffs should the initiatives make the ballot and pass.
Providers will have to make difficult decisions, and some of that could be, access. Unfortunately, some of that could also be, facilities end up closing. We've seen some of that already throughout the state without minimum wage conversations.
Alexio says some hospitals operate on thin margins, but SEIU UHW pushes back against the notion that health systems can't afford this.
What they can't afford to do is lose more healthcare workers in our system.
If enough signatures are collected and verified, voters in San Diego, La Mesa, and Chula Vista would see the initiatives on the November 2024 ballot. Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
The County of San Diego has expanded access to things like sterile needles, drug paraphernalia, and drug testing kits in an effort known as harm reduction. But some local leaders are taking a stance against the expansion in the North County. KPBS reporter Tanya Thorne has the story.
6 North County leaders signed a letter to Governor Gavin Newsom calling for an end to the distribution of clean needles and drug use devices.
So City of Escondido Mayor, City of San Marcos Mayor, City of Vista Mayor, City of Carlsbad Mayor, and the Vice Mayor of the City of Oceanside, we all signed on to a letter stating that we do not want these needle exchanges and smoking paraphernalia done in these cities.
County Supervisor Jim Desmond is referring to the supplies distributed as part of San Diego County's harm reduction program funded by the state. Supplies such as clean needles, drug cookers, tourniquets, and glass pipes are available as a way to prevent the spread of diseases. But it's also an opportunity for the distributor to engage with the individual and try getting them into treatment.
Well, we could do it without handing out needles, and which the engagement is still possible and still available. And I just think, if this was a family member, or this was, is somebody in your family that was doing these types of drugs, and is that what you would do? Would that be the common sense thing?
Desmond thinks funding going towards the needles and pipes would be better spent going towards engagement and treatment.
But I think as a society, it's much more compassionate to get people into the help so they can start making better decisions. And then we can stop the spread of HIV and those other things that needles spread. Let's stop the use of the needles instead of just giving out cleaner needles.
Tara Stamos-Bisig is the founder of the Harm Reduction Coalition of San Diego.
Syringe service programs and other harm reduction programs do reduce the risk to the individual. They also reduce the risk to the community.
She says communities that don't have syringe service programs see an increase in diseases and syringe litter left behind.
Because people do not have a safe place to dispose of it. They don't have the right equipment to dispose of it in, and they don't have organizations that are front-facing and interacting with them on a very real way every day.
She says the outreach workers with her organization build rapport with people through the syringe service programs and are more likely to get them into treatment following that engagement. She encourages those who do not agree or understand harm reduction to ask the people doing the work or being impacted the most.
Give us a call to talk to somebody, to stop and have a conversation with the people on the streets in Oceanside and San Marcos and Escondido and Vista and anywhere, and have a conversation, ask them what they need, find out from them what they're needing. Those are the constituents of those districts as well.
County staff told Supervisor Desmond they would work on the matter and respect the wishes of the cities. Tanya Thorne, KPBS News.
San Diego began enforcing its unsafe camping ordinance about a month ago, and that has resulted in fewer homeless encampments downtown. But there's still not enough shelter beds for everyone who needs one. KPBS reporter Melissa May recently rode along with Father Joe's Village's street health outreach team to learn more about what it takes to help people move off of the street and into a shelter.
If you're ever in the downtown San Diego area, you may see a van like this drive by. But it's not just a van. It's a lifeline for people experiencing homelessness.
We don't give up on people. No matter what. We have clients that, like I said, some days they're willing to work with us and they're willing to accept our help, and then they aren't. But no matter what, we don't give up. We keep coming back even when they don't want us to.
That's Father Joe's Village's street health team outreach worker, Michelle Lefevre. KPBS joined her and Supervisor Jennifer Wilkins on a recent afternoon to see their homeless outreach work firsthand. The team's daily interactions start with offering what they call tools of engagement. Wilkins also trains clients to use Narcan, which can reverse opioid overdoses.
You can do a sternum rub to see if they have any signs of life, and if not, you can take out the second dose and then do another dose in the nostrils. Okay? But make sure you are calling for emergency services or asking someone to help you. Okay, thank you.
According to the county medical examiner, 214 unsheltered residents have died from overdoses so far in 2023. Most were from fentanyl. Stephen Brown has been living on the streets for the last 6 months.
Without them, I couldn't be walking right now. My leg was really infected. It was bad, and it was hurt. And they looked at it and said, hey, we got a solution for you. And they gave me my medication and everything I needed. Yeah, I couldn't have done it without them. I didn't know what to do without them.
Every day is different for the team, but one thing is always consistent. They make an impact in the lives of homeless San Diegans.
We see people physically heal. We see people's health get better because they started taking their medications. We see people start practicing safer use practices, right? And so their use is causing less harm.
And sometimes that impact builds trust and leads to success stories like Ruthie Lavina Wilson's.
She was always so inebriated, I couldn't help her get her documents to get her supportive housing. It took me over a year to get her birth certificate.
After a life filled with traumatic experiences, Wilson says she lived on the streets in San Diego for the last 3 years.
I was raped at 15. I had a baby. My parents put me out. And I've been abused. And I was left out in the desert for dead. My ex-husband, he pulled both arms out of my sockets and decided to become homeless so he couldn't find me. One thing led to another. I ended up sleeping outside of house on the street. Like I said, these guys came in and swooped me up. And they come every week to make sure they found me and take care of my wounds.
The San Diego District Attorney's Office says people who are homeless in San Diego are 12 times more likely to be assaulted than the general population.
You don't want to get beat up, you don't want to get raped, you don't want to get robbed, because it's all a possibility. You don't sleep because you're afraid to sleep.
But recently, Wilson moved into her own apartment.
Ruthie! Wow! This is amazing! Take a picture of this.
With her receipt for paying her first month's rent in hand, Wilson credits LaFever for never giving up on her.
She made it a point that I didn't fall through the cracks. Come on, hug me. Look how far you've come. I know.
Getting people into housing is the ultimate success for the street health team. But LaFever counts all the milestones.
They want to have the conversation of like, hey, I want to get clean and sober. Can you help me? You know, we've helped people and I've delivered people to detox, to rehab. And I've watched them successfully finish and successfully move on with their lives.
In the last year, the team has helped move about 20 people into permanent housing and almost 60 into shelters. But in July, more than 1,500 people were living on the streets of downtown San Diego. Melissa May, KPBS News.
And this was the second story in a two-part series. You can find both stories along with all of our original in-depth feature reporting on our KPBS YouTube page. There's a push underway to return hundreds of thousands of Native American human remains and artifacts held by California State University schools. Shanti Passmore has more from Sacramento.
Frustration and pain on display.
This report is sad and heartbreaking.
During a legislative hearing, tribal leaders joined lawmakers to ask what's the holdup from the California State University system failing to repatriate nearly 700,000 Native American human remains and artifacts. It's not merely a request.
These are ancestors, these are family members.
An auditor uncovered multiple campuses failed to comply with the federal and state Native American Graves Protection and Repatriation Acts. The laws lay out how to handle human remains and artifacts with dignity and respect. Violations can be criminal and civil.
In Sacramento State's case, it has the third largest collection with more than 115,000 human remains and cultural items with only 5% repatriated. So where are they?
A spokesperson said they're in storage. In the hearing, the university president said he's committed to timely and appropriate compliance while working with tribes.
We owe the sovereign tribal nations of California a sincere and humble apology for how long they have been waiting for repatriation for their ancestors and cultural items.
Some of the reasons for the delay, the audit reports lack of policies, funding, and staff. For Chairman Jack Potter of the Redding Rancheria tribe, it's not only about returning what rightfully belongs to California's First People.
Each nation are going through a nation rebuilding, but if we can't
get our ancestors back, we're not going to be a whole nation.
So what's next? There's a push for legislation that'll create a reporting system between CSUs and the legislature.
And that was Shantae Passmore reporting. People living in Imperial Beach are fed up with pollution and calling for some action. On Monday, the Hollister pump station nearby spilled 20,000 gallons of sewage. Many people in this neighborhood don't have central air conditioning, and they told our media partner KGTV that they have to choose between opening their windows to the smell of sewage or closing them and sweating in the heat.
Smell all night, and so it got so strong that I just had to go close the window. It was really bad. I don't understand why action hasn't been taken, but the U.S. government needs to step in and fix the problem.
Yesterday, the mayor of Imperial Beach called on Governor Gavin Newsom to declare a sewage state of emergency in order to get funding to improve infrastructure. The International Border and Water Commission says they've ordered replacement pumps to restore the pump station as soon as possible. FEMA is warning it could run out of money by the end of the month without more funding from Congress. FEMA's director says it will prioritize the $3.4 billion it has left for extreme weather disasters like Tropical Storm Idalia and the Maui wildfires. Well, this year has been a record-breaking one for billion-dollar weather-related disasters. FEMA is asking Congress for $12 billion more to get through the fiscal year.
The interior heat has been a story over the course of the last couple of days, but we're going to start to see the heat relax as we go into Thursday and also into Friday, making a return. Some of the coastal low clouds, even some of the far interior valleys, and at the same time, we're seeing this temperature change come in, as well as the low clouds. There could be some moisture rolling its way into the mountains and also into the desert with the potential of some wet weather. All right, well, the heat is, again, at least the core of the heat is about to relax. Still have some of those warnings out here, some of the alerts going here throughout the evening. But by and large, the majority of the intense heat has been felt here over the course of the last couple of days. And as I mentioned, we're starting to see a change now. The onshore flow coming back in. Clouds will be thickening as temperatures drop down into the mid-60s. Let's take a look here as we fall back down to 64 at Oceanside, Chula Vista at 65, Ramona 66, Borrego Springs right around 80 degrees. And again, like I mentioned, there will be that ribbon of low cloudiness and some fog, lowering visibility later on tonight and as we work our way into a Thursday morning. Here comes some of that moisture too. Now, some of this can make its way into the mountainous terrain, also into the deserts as we go into the afternoon hours, so around Borrego Springs and Mount Laguna. Now there could be a thunder shower around. Again, we're looking at clouds to start, then some sunshine for the afternoon. Oceanside tops off at 79, Chula Vista 78, Ramona topping off at 94. But notice the trend here at the coast. Temperatures coming down, still some low clouds to start off our days. As we look at the interior valleys, again, the Thursday at 90 degrees, but notice how we're starting to slip. So the heat's definitely relaxing here. After that patchy fog, we will see some sunshine on Thursday. Mountainous terrain also cooling off after those thunder showers around on Thursday. We're mainly looking to be on the dry side. And then over the deserts, can't see a stray thunder shower on Thursday. Dry. Beyond that, temperatures for highs falling into the 90s. For KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Justin Pavic.
I'm Amna Navaz. Tonight on the News Hour, emergency officials rush to respond to the damage done by Hurricane Idalia. That's coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
New research out of San Diego finds a large red tide event along the California coast in 2020 had a significant impact on the nearshore marine habitat. KPBS environment reporter Eric Anderson has details.
San Diego researchers got an unprecedented look at an algal bloom, a major red tide event, in April and May of 2020.
During the day is a rust-colored, very red-colored surface ocean. You can see it even as the waves are breaking. The white of the breaking waves has almost some pink to it.
But at night, the plankton responsible for the phenomenon turned the waves into a light show.
When they're disturbed, they release flashes of light.
Researchers say the plankton got sunlight for photosynthesis near the surface during the day and scientists recorded them diving deep into the ocean at night to get nutrients. Their strong swimming ability let them outgrow their competitors, allowing them to feed the bloom. The red tide event created toxins in the water and used up oxygen, which led to fish kills that summer.
This incredible density of this red tide totally reshaped the coastal ocean's biogeochemistry. Relative to 70 years, in fact, of data that we have from a nearby station, the so-called Cal Coffee program, the nutrient conditions were completely and totally anomalous to that 70 years of data.
The team used a wire walker device in the ocean to track the plankton as it moved up and down the water column. The findings are published in the current edition of the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. Eric Anderson, KPBS News.
Make sure you take a look at the sky tonight to get a glimpse of a rare blue supermoon. It's expected to rise shortly before 8 o'clock tonight. The second full moon of the month is considered to be a blue moon, and tonight's moon is a supermoon because it's closer to Earth than usual, appearing especially big and bright. NASA says we won't see another blue moon that's also a supermoon until January of 2037. Here's a look at what we're working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom. Federal student loan payments are set to restart this fall, but some borrowers won't have to pay. On NPR's Morning Edition, why thousands of loans are being forgiven. And KPBS Midday Edition is getting you ready for the Labor Day weekend with a roundup of local arts and culture events. And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Good night.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. By viewers like you. Thank you.